everybody,
Hello.
and welcome to the Macabre Podcast universe.
Yeah, we exist to prove people wrong when they say
Sequels are never better than the originals.
Yep.
And we've been slowly clawing our way through, phasing through, optic blasting through the X-Men franchise, including all of its ancillary brands and extras. And today, we're talking about the sixth, I think it's the sixth total movie, but the second movie within the series. That is the Wolverine.
Oh, gosh, okay.
And we have a very special guest with us. You may know him from the very last minute of an episode called The Kid Who Would Be King. We have Jack O'Hara on the show.
Woo! What an intro! I have so many credits now. I'm a two-timer. Yep.
You are.
I'm excited to be here. Excited to talk about the Wolverine.
Yes. So I know it's very typical of us to kind of explain our experience with the first time we saw the movie. Jack, when did you first see this movie? What's your experience with the Wolverine?
I first saw this movie, this entry in the Wolverine kind of saga this morning at about 8 a.m.
Oh, wow.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Why did you choose it then?
Because I hadn't seen it.
Oh, okay.
I
That
hadn't
makes
seen
sense.
it, and I grew up loving Wolverine and all the X-Men movies.
Mhm.
And I saw Logan, loved Logan, and
Oh,
I just
yeah.
never saw this one. I remember seeing a trailer for it, and there was a scene on the train, on the bullet train, which we'll
Yeah.
get to. And at that time, I was like, "There's no way I'm going to see that movie. That looks terrible." I hated the CG that I saw, but yeah, I was pretty pleasantly surprised by the movie. So today was my first experience with it.
Well, I think we have kind of a similar experience, Jack.
Yeah.
Because
cool.
the other night we had Kateri and Evan come over, and for those who are listening, you will know Kateri from our X-Men Origins Wolverine episode.
Yep. So we thought we needed to see the next Wolverine movie with her.
Yeah,
Mm.
and she was like, "Oh yeah, this one's a good one. You guys are gonna like it." And we're watching it,
But
and I'm
I
like,
have to say I was
"Oh yeah."
a little nervous still because I did not like Origins very much.
Yeah.
So it's like, that's great that Kateri loved it. I'm not so sure about myself.
But
I don't know if you felt the same way.
no, yeah, I had seen some critics that I follow who were like, "Hey, this movie's actually pretty good.
Yeah.
Like, this one's pretty good." So I'm like, okay, maybe this is going to be a little secret. I mean, I guess not secret to me, not secret to a mainstream audience, but maybe it'll be like, "Oh, this is actually one of the better X-Men movies." And when the movie started and it begins I mean, not to jump too far ahead, but it begins with the Hiroshima bomb.
Yeah,
Yep.
you got it.
Try it again.
Hiroshima bomb,
There
like
you go.
attack.
Yeah.
I was like, what now? This movie might be really awesome.
Yeah.
And for a lot of the movie, I was like, oh, I think this is the best X-Men movie pre-Logan. But there are some things we're going to talk about that
Oh, yeah.
I would hit against. But just to let people know right off the bat, this movie kind of rocks.
I like
It's
this
good.
movie. Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's actually like a pretty quality, like rounded out film. Like when I was watching it, I was thinking to myself, like, if you like superhero movies or storylines and you're kind of getting really worn out by all of the like Marvel and DC stuff going on, and you haven't seen this one, you should go check it out because
Yeah.
Yeah.
it's a nice palate cleanse. I felt like.
I agree, because it's outside of all of the mumbo jumbo complicated mess that is a lot of comic book movies, including the X-Men series. And we had just watched, what was the one we just covered?
So we had watched First Class
First
because that was
Class,
the
and talk about convoluted. So
Yeah.
this was refreshing.
yeah. And when before we move away from that, did you see First Class in theaters with me and a big group of us, Jack?
I did see First Class in theaters. It immediately left my brain. I think I may have been with you. I don't remember. I just
Okay.
remember thinking, "Oh, Michael Fassbender's cool as Magneto," and then the rest of the movie being like, "I don't know what's going on here."
Yeah, and well, you'll know all about what we say And I mean, probably soon because, right, we're not recording this that far ahead of time, right, Jack? I'm winking.
No, not at all. As we talked about previously, it's crazy that tax day is right around the corner. I was going to keep pounding that one in.
Yeah.
No, I don't remember a lot. What was your guys' take on First Class?
It was a slog.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't understand because it's kind of a well-regarded X-Men movie, and I can't really fathom that opinion.
No.
But I those original three, and even to some degree Wolverine Origins, even though it's not really good, I just kind of think that they hit some stuff for me that like the middle period, the early teens of superhero movies, a lot of them don't hit for me.
Yeah.
Because it's kind of like you have that early 2000s excitement of like, oh, we're doing this.
Yeah.
Like we have the technology, we can make these movies now. And then I think the excitement kind of wanes, at least for me. Once it's like you hit Avengers and it's like, holy cow, this is insane.
Yeah.
And then it kind of dips a little bit. Although there's some great movies that were made in between. And then toward the end of the teens, I feel like there starts being kind of a plethora of really good ones.
Yeah.
I mean, we've talked about most of them on this podcast before because most of them are Marvel affiliated. But let's talk about this one.
Yeah.
Let's talk about who made it. It is a man named James Mangold. And we're going to be talking about him again when we discuss Logan, but he directed before this. He directed Sylvester Stallone's Copland.
Oh.
He directed Girl Interrupted, the Hugh Jackman starring Kate and Leopold, which I had no idea he directed that movie.
What is that?
It's like a romantic comedy with Hugh Jackman and Megan Ryan.
Megan Ryan?
Meg Ryan.
wait, what's it called?
Kate and Leopold.
Oh, okay.
And I feel like I've seen a portion of it. I think he's like from the past, like the 18th century or something like that, and then he comes to the future.
Yep.
And they fall in love.
So Meg Ryan gets to be her charming New York City self, while Hugh Jackman is an English Duke from 1876.
Yeah.
Yes.
That sounds...
Wait, this sounds like a recipe for a good movie.
I know.
That's pretty good.
Not great scores, but...
There is definitely a lot of people who like it. Oh, okay.
Wow.
Got the Leaf Man. But yeah, he also directed Walk the Line, 3:10 to Yuma, the movie Night and Day, the Tom Cruise one.
Oh, wow.
And then he makes this movie. So I knew he had made a few movies before this. I didn't realize he'd made like quite a few hits.
Yeah, I didn't know that either.
Amongst various genres by now. The screenplay is by Mark Bomback, who wrote Live Free or Die Hard, which is which numbered Die Hard movie, Jordan?
That's the one with Justin Long.
It is.
Oh, finally. I finally got it right.
Which is number what?
Oh, I don't know. 5? 6. 4.
Jack's holding up 4 fingers. That's right. Ding, ding, ding.
Yeah, the listener, I guess can't. Yeah, I forget the media that we're in. It's 4. What a good one, too. I remember loving that movie. It might actually be terrible, but...
I watched it so many times, but it can't be good.
Yes.
It can't.
I don't know. It's got Justin Long. It's got Mary Elizabeth Winstead.
It's got Timothy Oliphant in it.
Timothy, yeah. I mean, I feel like it's got to be good, but I haven't seen it since theaters, I don't think.
Yeah.
And I remember that is the only one that's PG-13, which is kind of a big deal.
Which I think was why I was allowed to watch it.
Yeah.
And why I maybe watched it a lot.
I remember it being PG-13 distinctly because when it came out on DVD, they released a rated R version, which had like 2 more F words in it.
Oh, I watched that at your house.
That.
Yes, you did. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, because it was like, oh my gosh, this time, because
he's got F words in it.
Well, he's got the famous yippee-ki-yay.
Yeah.
And in this movie, it's cut off by him. He goes mother, and then he shoots a gun.
Yep.
But in the uncensored version, he says it, then shoots the gun.
Yeah.
And we're all sitting there at the O'Hara house, and we're like, this is cinema, baby. This is cinema.
It's a thing that people couldn't handle, but that they needed. They needed it as an
They could handle it 3 times, but we needed to make sure they couldn't handle it that 4th time.
Wow.
But yeah, along with Mark Bomback, he also did Race to Witch Mountain, Unstoppable, and the new Total Recall. And he wrote this with Scott Frank, who did Minority Report and Marley and Me, 2 movies that don't seem like they have anything in common.
Nope.
But maybe they do.
Zero
Maybe we should start a podcast about the similarities between the 2015 Total Recall and Marley and Me, and the story of Scott Frank.
I mean, maybe Marley could see future crimes, but that just had to be cut out of the movie for the emotional core.
Yeah, I heard that they actually did. They cut out hours and hours and hours of footage that was just the dog. They just followed the dog around.
He's got the glove on. He's moving things around.
The dog has a glove on?
Yeah. He's doing the Minority Report thing where he's moving everything around.
I'm imagining it. This is how it's shot. It's the dog, like, kind of chest up, but the legs are up.
Oh,
on
yeah,
screen,
like directly.
and it doesn't make physical sense.
Yeah.
And it's like a Tim and Eric, like they're moving the paws.
There was like cameos from the Air Bud franchise as well. It was going to be a whole event, and then they scrapped it. Unfortunately, Owen Wilson had issues with it. Apparently.
Yeah. It wasn't true enough, you know.
Yeah.
And this I found extremely interesting because we have covered many a movie about a superhero, and I don't know of any other one that has a based on like a specific run.
Oh, okay.
Because this says based on Wolverine by Chris Claremont and Frank Miller. Usually it'll be like based on Spider-Man by Steve Ditko and Stan Lee.
Right.
But this is Wolverine, and it's when I clicked on Wolverine, it's the first Wolverine like limited series.
Oh wow! Okay.
And in the limited series, he it highlights Wolverine's time in Japan. This story arc covers his battle with the Yakuza, the Hand Ninja organization, and his engagement to Mariko Yashida. Which when I read her in the comics, I always pronounced it as Mariko. And so I was surprised watching this movie and have to like rewire my brain.
Yeah.
So
happens, man. Frank Miller did The Long Halloween.
No.
Dang.
He did did Daredevil and
that's
Sin City and then The Dark Knight Returns.
Okay.
Yeah. And amongst many others. I think he did 300 as well. Yeah. One of the most famous guys.
Yeah.
And Frank Miller did Watchmen, right?
No,
that's Alan Moore.
Yeah, Alan Moore.
Oh, all the comic book fans are gonna try to find me. Loan me up, but
that's one of the few that I know. So that's not too impressive for me.
And then the music is by Marco Beltrami. He is our Scream Boy. We've talked about him many a time.
Yeah.
The cinematography is by Ross Emery, who did, of course, I, Frankenstein, The Giver, and the Ryan Reynolds movie Woman in Gold. I haven't seen a single one of those.
Why are you billing it as the Ryan Reynolds movie?
Because I think that's such a generic title that no one would know what I'm talking about.
Even with Ryan Reynolds, I don't.
Well, it was my best shot at someone doing it. I remember my mom told me it was a really good movie.
Oh, so it's a historical movie.
It has something to do with like someone owning a painting or something like that and then going to court to get it back or something along those lines.
Okay.
Sounds riveting.
Not as interesting as the Meg Ryan Hugh Jackman one, but
well, I think it's like she was in the Holocaust and the painting was taken and brought to a museum, and then she's like made it out of the Holocaust, and then is like, I would like that painting back.
I think I've heard of that story.
Oh, okay.
And so he like fights for her to get the painting back. I think
your mom's told me that actually.
She told us both.
Oh, well, there you have
it. It sounds like a good story. But here we go. The Wolverine comes out July 26, 2013. That's 10 years ago, folks. It has a $120 million budget. Domestically, it makes 132, not the best showing in America, but worldwide, it makes 414. It does okay.
Okay.
And then this is how it happened. In 2007, this is 2 years before Wolverine 1 even comes out, Gavin Hood, the director of 1, Origin. It gets so complicated. He was already like, yeah, we're going to make a sequel, and it's going to be set in Japan. And then in 2009, days after Wolverine hits theaters, they confirm a sequel and they hire Christopher McQuarrie to write a script. I had no idea how much Christopher McQuarrie was involved in the X-Men. It's just crazy.
Because he's come up before, right?
Yeah, he was one of the writers on X-Men 1, and then he refused.
That's right.
He asked them to not give him any credit because he had such a bad experience.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. Or maybe that might have been X-Men 2, but I think it was X-Men 1 that he
So yet again he's involved, but nothing happened. Like it
no credit,
for him, it doesn't. He doesn't get a credit for it.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And then in 2010, Hugh Jackman confirms Darren Aronofsky is directing this movie.
Oh, what? That makes no sense.
Actually, he brought it up because I found like someone like interviewed him at a ball or something, and he was like he was kind of like, actually Aronofsky makes a lot of sense because Wolverine is like a loner. It's a darker story.
Okay.
And we've worked together before. Like, he's perfect for this. And he's come up many times on this podcast as like, he almost directed, I think, a Batman movie. He almost directed Wolverine. There's another one he almost directed as well.
But his blockbuster he finally gets, Noah.
He's the guy who made Noah?
Yeah.
Oh, brother.
But you might know him more from Black Swan, Requiem for a Dream,
Mother,
The Whale.
I see now.
The Fountain.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, he finally, I see that Darren Aronofsky's coming out with the superhero movie, The Whale. I go and see it. No superpowers on display.
This is part of your type 5.
That's my type 5. Yeah. I'm waiting for this guy to start shooting stuff out of his back and swim in the water, and he just sits there and does nothing.
Yeah, you might want to work on that a little bit.
Well, I haven't seen the movie, so that's kind of at my detriment. But But anyway, Darren drops out of the movie because he would have had to be away from his family for almost a year, and he didn't want to do that.
That was like the last guy.
Yeah. Good for them.
Yeah.
Yeah, kind of respect it.
Yeah. And then in June, they start negotiating with Mangold. And this pushes the filming back to like the end of 2012. And by then, they have to push back, 2011. And then they have to push back the filming to 2012 spring because Hugh Jackman is shooting Les Mis.
Okay.
Which is nuts because Les Mis is over 10 years old now because that came out in 2012. I don't like that. And then they hire Mark Bomback to come and rewrite the script. And then James Mangold has this to say. If you have a hero who can't be hurt, there's only one way to create stakes or jeopardy, and that's to put people he cares about in harm's way. And not unlike the amnesia thing, that can get tired really fast. I think there's so much to mine in Logan without robbing him of self-knowledge. What I wanted to present to the audience was, what is it like to feel a prisoner in a life you cannot escape? You accumulate pain and loss and keep that with you as you keep on going. And if that is what he was trying to accomplish with this movie, success.
Wow. I
think he did it.
Yeah. Good understanding of the character.
I think so.
Yeah, also well said. Just like well-spoken
Yeah.
individual who really thought about a superhero movie instead of just throwing a bunch of CGI cool stuff and some famous actors together into a room and calling it a day.
Right. And he didn't do as far as I know, he didn't do the one annoying sin that most directors do when he's making a sequel where he didn't go, yeah, this time we wanted to make it a little bit different like The Empire Strikes Back that everybody says when they make a sequel. And then you watch the movie and you're like, this has nothing in common with The Empire Strikes Back. Stop making that comparison. They always say that, or they say, or like Godfather 2, and you're like, we're talking about Wolverine. We're not talking about The Godfather.
Yeah.
This is not Francis Ford Coppola. Don't pretend this is as good as The Godfather. It's not.
And he didn't.
Go, Mangold, go.
Okay, a couple actors in this movie. So Mariko is played by Tao Okamoto. She is also in Batman v Superman.
What? Oh, you probably don't have. What is it?
Mercy Graves. I don't know who that is.
I don't know who that is either.
She's also in Westworld, Hannibal the show, and a lot of Japanese shows and movies as well.
Okay.
Rila Fukushima plays Yukio, the girl that gets Wolverine to come to Japan.
Okay.
His bodyguard.
Yes, his bodyguard. She is in Annette, Love Cantata, Castlevania, the Netflix one. SWAT, Arrow, and then a lot of Japanese stuff as well. Oh, also in Ghost in the Shell.
The
what's her face?
Scarlett Johansson movie. How did we
the
forget
live
that?
action.
The live action one, yeah. And then Svetlana Chodchenkova plays Viper.
Svetlana
Chodchenkova. She's Russian. Can you tell?
Yeah. Cool name.
She is in Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy, Another Name, Mala Moskwa. Oh, that's in Russian, so I probably didn't say that right. And then a lot of Russian stuff.
Okay.
And then Harada, I think, is the guy at the beginning of the movie who becomes the old man.
So this is like his young version.
I think so. Will-Yun Lee plays him. He is also in The Good Doctor. He also plays a doctor. I wonder if he's good. He's in San Andreas, Rampage, Altered Carbon.
Okay.
And such. And then, this is the guy who played... Oh, no, that wasn't him.
Wait, the guy you just talked about was like, because I watched Altered Carbon. He's the guy trying to protect her. He shoots all the arrows, right, in this movie.
Oh, yeah.
That's who it is. Yep. So now I found Yoshida, young Yoshida, and Yoshida, the older guy.
That makes more sense because they have the same name as the character.
Yeah, that does make sense, doesn't it?
That was kind of the giveaway.
Young Yoshida is played by Ken Yamamura. He is in Godzilla. 2014's Godzilla. Okay. Black Mirror, Tokyo Vice, Story Game, and a lot of other stuff. And then old Yoshida is played by Hal Yamanouchi, who is in Life Aquatic.
Okay.
That's cool. Zoolander 2, Luca, Medium, and so on and so forth. And let's just stop there.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know that there's anyone that comes to mind.
Well, this guy I think we've covered. Hiroyuki Sanada, who's in John Wick 2.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm sure
he's the son, right?
He's the guy that Mariko, I think, is in... Oh, no, that's not the same guy. Yeah, that's the son.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, he's one of like the big baddies in 2, I think. John Wick 2?
I think so. I hope I'm not wrong.
I kind of conflate 2 and 3, even though... Well, no, I don't conflate them because I know. Because 2's my favorite. Anyway. Yeah. So, anything else before we jump in, Jack?
Oh, no, I was just going to say when I was watching the movie about the cast, like, I liked it. I liked the fact that it wasn't a giant, bloated cast. Like, there were, like, very distinct characters, and, like, some of these, it wasn't, like, huge, famous actors and actresses the whole time. And I dug that. Or at least I didn't recognize the movie. It's because it's an older movie. But, yeah, I was a fan of the casting for the most part.
I feel the same way. Yeah.
It really makes Wolverine pop.
I mean, the next... Yeah, that's true. Because the next one is Days of Future Past, and that's like, how many celebrities can we pack into one movie?
Yeah. Which we're not talking about yet,
we're not.
Even though we did watch it last night, okay?
Yeah. But, Wolverine is very refreshing in that way. I agree.
And he looks, when you first see him in this movie, I think that he could eat the Hugh Jackman that has previously played him. He's huge.
He is the huge jacked man.
Somebody's listening to CVV.
A lot of CVV.
We love to hear it. We love to see it. Okay, so let's hop in.
Okay.
Let's take a trip to a country several miles away called Japan, where this movie takes place.
Okay.
Now, right off the bat, this movie starts out and it's 1945, and we're seeing
American prisoners
in a Japan camp, like a POW camp. And like 2 seconds in, I was like, oh, this movie looks way better than every other X-Men movie.
Yeah.
And I would say up to this point, besides the Nolan movies, I was like, oh, this is like one of the best looking superhero movies up to this point.
Yeah.
Maybe disclude Spider-Man, because I think those movies all look great. But it was just insane how much better this looked. It looked much more like a movie, like
Definitely.
a real movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I could just tell the way the camera was moving and what was happening just in this first scene. It was like, oh, this guy knows and is intentional about what he's doing. He's not just doing like basic coverage shots. I mean, those are in there, but it just felt like they actually like sat down and thought this through more than a lot of these movies do.
Mm-hmm.
And I love in this scene, the camera just keeps on looking toward this well, and you just know that Logan's in there.
Oh, yeah.
And I think you see his eyes at one point.
Yeah, because he's propping himself up, looking through the tiny little slit.
Yeah, with his bone claws.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, this scene was incredible.
An impending doom is coming. A bomb will be dropped.
Sirens are going off.
So they let loose the prisoners.
Uh-huh.
And the Yoshida also frees Wolverine, opens the crate thing, and is like allowing him to leave. And Wolverine's like, you don't understand, there's no outrunning this.
Yeah.
And then Yoshida goes with the other commanders, and they're gonna, I think it's seppuku is what it's called. I could be so wrong about that.
Yes.
But it's that honorable suicide thing in Japanese culture. So they're all the dudes are performing it besides Yoshida, who decides to jump into the well with Wolverine.
Yeah. To which Wolverine like covers him as the radiation
so cool.
Like removes all the skin and hair off his body, but then he's quickly regenerating. Of course.
My gosh, it was so cool.
Looked great.
The bomb looked great.
It looked so good. It all looked really good. I was like, holy cow, they really are going in on this one. I do want to put a little pin here. What I noticed about this movie compared to other X-Men movies, and it's been a while, is that Logan's shirt is off so much. And like it starts in the well. I'm like, why is this guy not wearing a shirt? He's not wearing a shirt like the whole movie. And I wonder how much of that was the directors being like, we really want to emphasize how big Hugh Jackman is, or how much Hugh Jackman like got huge for the movie and was like, hey, we should pop my top off for this scene though.
I know.
And then he just kept doing that like every day. He'd be like, oh, I left my shirt at home. I don't know. We'll just have to shoot about it.
You wonder when this movie is going to get made, and they're going to start filming. They have the film date set, and they're like, okay, Hugh, this is what's required of you. And based on the workout regimen, he knows, okay, my shirt's going to be off like 50% of the movie.
Yeah. Well, you know, I actually think that brings up an interesting thing about superheroes and costumes, because I think having read quite a bit of Wolverine stuff, you know, him being an X-Men, I do think that he is not as closely tied to his costume as a lot of heroes are. And yes, he does have some iconic costumes, but I feel like when you think of him, you think of his face and you think of his claws. So as long as those are there and those are stylized, I think you got it. And there's plenty of times when you're going to read a comic and see a shirtless Wolverine. So I just feel like he more than some, you know, because sometimes I'm watching these movies and you're like, like any superhero movie, and you go, what? You know, this person's shooting lightning at someone, and yet why can't they have a costume that's colorful or like look like their costume? Why do they have to, you know, be wearing like a windbreaker instead? That's kind of stylized. But I think with Wolverine, it actually lends itself to a little more realism.
I agree.
Because he kind of looks, even in comics, he kind of looks goofy when he's wearing a bright yellow suit, because it's he's this tough loner. So when he's wearing the yellow suit, I like it, but I think it's also, I think it works that he can be the shirtless one.
Yeah, and I feel like it's like kind of like you're saying, like it's partially intentional by the comic book people and the people who made this movie, because Wolverine is like bordering on an anti-hero. Like he always does do the right thing, but often only if it fits in with his own agenda, or he does things that other heroes wouldn't do. So yeah, I think that makes sense that they keep him costumeless a lot, especially in this movie. Listener, if you haven't seen this movie, this guy's shirt's off a lot. I'm just saying. He looks good.
He looks good.
Did we get his butt in this movie?
Yes, there was butt in this movie.
There was
when
butt.
He gets bathed.
Because that's usually a requirement for Hugh Jackman. I'm discovering. And watching
really?
Yeah.
He's been
buttless.
I don't know about
I mean
Les Mis.
in X-Men, like
X-Men
when he plays
specifically.
Logan.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, at
Okay.
least in the Wolverine movies, and then Days of Future Past. Days of Future Past has like kind of a graphic butt scene, I would say.
It is a full body from behind naked shot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But he looks even bigger in that movie, so it's like if you got it, flaunt it, as they say. Like, show me them cheeks, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I thought right when I saw
Show
it.
me the
I was
cheeks.
like, I'm glad they provided the cake for this movie. I'm glad that they did.
Okay. Also,
Not that kind of pod.
I was surprised because as the listener knows, we're basically a new territory for me on the X-Men movies because I dropped out completely after watching First Class. But I did watch Logan and I did watch the 2 Deadpool movies. But other than that, everything else is going to be a first-time watch for me. And I did not know that I'm forgetting her name, but the actress who plays Jean Grey, I did not know that she would ever return in this franchise.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
So when I saw her in this, I got pretty excited because I really like her in these movies. And then I like the idea that Logan keeps having these dreams where he's haunted by this person he loved but was forced to kill.
Mm-hmm. And it's kind of like asking him to follow her the whole movie.
What do you mean?
Well, I mean, kind of the whole movie kind of talking about how alone she is and how she wants him to be with her. And then by the end of the movie, she's basically like, come towards the light.
Yeah.
And he says no.
Yeah. It's good.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Talking about like calling back to what the director said about really making Logan a prisoner to himself. Like in the first scene, he is literally a prisoner, of course.
Mm-hmm.
But then like throughout the movie, this is part of that theme, right? Of him being a prisoner to his own thoughts and his own mind and his own guilt for killing her.
Wow. James Mangold, you did it.
You did. And
Mangold did a good job.
He did. And he is going to do what the movie that I think everyone considers the best X-Men movie, which is Logan. If you're including, if you're counting Logan as that. Yeah.
Yeah, that movie is incredible.
Yeah, because that was like, well, we shouldn't talk about it yet. We got to go back to this. So he saves Yoshido. Is it Yoshida or Shida?
Yoshida.
Yoshida. And then we come back to the present day. And it was pretty funny because before this movie started, Evan, who also I should mention you would know from our John Wick Chapter 2 episode. Mm-hmm. So both Evan and Kateri have been on the pod now. He was kind of like, okay, I haven't really seen most of these movies. Where does this take place? And I was like, oh, I'm pretty sure this is right after X-Men Origins because there's a post-credit scene in Origins that was played to some theaters where he was in Japan.
Oh. But that's
then,
not true.
Then we see Jean Grey, and he has this dream, and I'm like, oh, I guess this is after X-Men: The Last Stand. So we are now the furthest from the past in this movie. This movie is like plotting out new territory.
Yes.
And so now I think he's maybe in Canada again.
I'm assuming. In present day.
Yeah, and he's
or
walking
whatever
around.
The X-Men say, the not too distant future.
Right. Okay, sorry, Jordan. And he's like making X's in the woods. He's got this long, luscious hair, long, luscious beard. They must
luscious
have shot
is an
this.
Interesting word.
Yeah, they must have shot this.
He looks like he looks like a caveman.
Yeah, but I'm thinking that this is like the first scenes they shot after Les Mis.
Okay.
He's got some Jean Valjean going on here.
Okay.
And then we see a bear. And it's CG. And it looks really good for 2013.
It looked good.
Yeah.
I was like, this doesn't bother me at all.
No.
Yeah, so and I want to this kind of skips ahead because we find out the bear is being killed.
It was shot with a poison arrow.
Yeah, by these hunters.
It was left to die, so Wolverine had to put it out of its misery. But it was like his only friend.
Yeah, and it would like hang out with him, and I was like, "This is so cool." Not only did he survive the atomic bomb, he's just walking by a bear. I didn't even think that they were friends in that way, but yeah, I think they just hung out. So I love that. But I found this out. The walking bear featured in the Yukon scenes. Where's the Yukon?
that Alaska?
Geography's not my strong suit, folks.
I'm gonna look it up.
I can't even point out most of the flyover states on a map, I just got the coasts down.
Oh, Canada.
Canada.
Yukon, Canada. Right by Alaska.
Okay. So so those scenes, the walking bear was created with computer graphics by Weta Digital.
Okay.
But when he's dying, and I suspected this, that is an animatronic. That is a
Wow.
12-foot
it looked-
animatronic.
That's cool.
And that's by the makeup effects group. And they were used for the shots where he was dying. Yeah.
Dang.
But yeah, it had that like practical look where it's kind of like a little janky in the way that looks so good.
Mm-hmm.
So that was awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Then he's like, hey, there were these hunters who did this and they shouldn't have done it. And he goes to a bar and he confronts these hunters.
But at this point in his life, because of everything that's happened up until this point, he is like a recluse and is like resolved never to resort to violence again, right? Like he's trying to
With
not
Jean
be
Grey, he's like made
a
that
violent
vow.
person. Yeah. But then he has been wronged, so he goes he it's like justice is still pulling him.
Yeah, and he even says that line where he says like, all right, Gene, I got to break the vow one more time or something to that effect. And he goes in, he sees these guys, and does he say something before he stabs the guy, Jack?
Yeah, he says, are you the one who like shot the bear, was attacked by the bear? And then he's like, I need to buy this guy a drink. And then he immediately stabs him with an arrow.
That's right.
And then he goes, last time I checked, poison-tipped arrows were illegal. And the guy says, I didn't dip mine in poison. And he's like, well, then you have nothing to worry about. Oh, come on. This is, I mean, come on. This is what I want out of a Wolverine movie.
Yeah.
And so he's just standing there, and then people start attacking him. Of course, he's Wolverine, so he is able to take them out. And then does he like? How does he kill that guy?
Well, he doesn't kill him.
He doesn't kill him?
No, because Yukio comes in.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And kind of diffuses the situation. Has her samurai sword and is super cool about it.
Oh yeah, she's like, this is my sword. It's called Separator because it will separate your head from your body.
Badass.
Okay.
Yeah, no, she crushed it. I was immediately locked in. At that point in the movie, I was like, this is gonna be great.
Yeah. Me too.
Yeah, because it was like, okay, Japan scene, pretty darn cool, but this is a flashback. Like, how good? This doesn't mean the movie's gonna be good.
Superhero movies start super strong.
Yeah, and then much like the Hulk, super strong. And then he goes to the bar.
A lot of them are super strong, but that's fine.
And he stabs the guy, and I was like, okay, this movie rocks. I love this movie. But yeah, so she diffuses the situation, but I thought he like did something else to that guy.
I mean, they might have started getting into a fist fight.
Okay.
I can't remember.
They fought a little bit. The guy's pretty immobilized by the arrow holding him to the table in front of him. And then he smashes Logan with a bottle, and he acts like he's going to like kill him. And then she says they're not worth it. They're going to be like 3 of them are going to be dead in a week anyway in the same car crash.
Yes.
Right.
That's right.
Yeah. So then, and that's when I'm like, oh yeah, this is not just a Wolverine movie. This is an X-Men movie. Like other people have powers. I was like, I'd already like kind of forgotten that detail.
The interesting thing about her though, so she can like see when people die.
Uh-huh.
And what I like about it though, we're watching a mutant movie, but she never feels like a mutant to me. She just feels like someone who might be clairvoyant.
Sure. Yeah.
Because they never go farther with that.
Well, and that's what is that's a fun thing I like about X-Men universe is like you can be like Wolverine where you regenerate, or you can like my mutant powers I see 1 hour into the future. It's sort of helpful.
Yeah.
Like I love how the powers can vary so vastly.
Right.
So anyway, she tells him that he's a soldier, and she says that you seek an honorable death, and therefore you need to come with me to meet Yoshida. He is about to die, and he wants like to give you his blessing. And Logan's like, nah, I don't need to do that. I don't want to do that. And she goes, it would be so disrespectful for you not to come.
Mm-hmm.
And so then he heads to Japan.
She gives him the sword, doesn't she? It's from the grandfather.
But he refuses it.
Yeah, but like by the end of the movie, or at some point in the movie, he say like tell her to hold on to it for him.
Something like that.
Okay, I just can't remember when that happened.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you have clarification on that, Jack? You said you watched it this morning, so
I did watch it this morning.
I'm holding your feet to the fire on this one.
Here we go. No, I can't remember exactly their interaction, but the holding it for me thing, I remember him saying that to the main Hashida, is that his name? The guy?
Yoshida.
Yeah, the senior, the head of the company. He tells him that when they're Yoshida Senior, when they're in the when they're like in the prison together in one of the flashbacks.
Oh, right.
That's what it was.
They're like in the cage or whatever it is. Yeah.
Yes, that's what it was. Like conflating.
And he's like, you have to take it. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
But by the end of the movie, I think he takes it, and that helps him defeat him at the end, right?
I don't remember.
Well, he takes like he uses like the big machine sword.
Yes.
Yeah. It is so unfortunate. I don't know what you think, Jack, and we will really dig into it when we get there. But like the last 20 minutes of this movie are like pretty bad, I think. Like the movie is like excellent, and then the last 20 minutes you're like, "Oh my gosh, this is kind of terrible and not coming together." But his emotional journey ends strong. And so I think the movie somewhat ends strong, ending on like it could have been like maybe one of the best superhero movies, and it ends on like, oh, this one's one of the better ones, not one of the best though.
No, I agree. I thought that the way that they ended it, the choices they made in terms of villains and fighting and all of that was, and some of the reasoning and motivations were completely unclear to me. Absolutely.
Oh, crap.
Me too.
I was hoping we'd get there and I could be like, okay, Jack, what was this motivation? Because I kind of can't wrap my head around why he would fake his death, which is kind of the catalyst of this whole movie.
Yeah.
And I know that movies, we talk about this all the time on the podcast. They don't have to follow how you think about the world. But like there's just certain things that like don't make sense about the plot of this movie.
Yeah.
But let's not cover that quite yet.
Well,
I mean,
okay,
we're just barely in Japan.
In my head, I'm starting to come up with maybe an explanation for why he'd have to fake his own death. But we'll get there.
Okay.
And when we get there, I'll put forth what I think.
Because I would prefer it if we finish this and I like it even more than I like it. You know? So if you can come up with an explanation, let's go.
So there's no pressure on me, but I do need to make it so you both enjoy the movie more by the end of the pod.
Yes.
That would be great.
Ideally.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Or you're never welcome again on this podcast.
Oh God, I knew. Listener, you can't see, but I'm dripping sweat right now. My heart is racing.
Yeah. So then he goes there and he meets Mariko.
We find out that since the war, Yoshida is super rich, like the richest man in Japan or something, and
he's developed a lot of stuff. Like, I think a lot of medical stuff.
Tech. Yeah, just tons of tech in general.
Yeah.
And then he has a granddaughter named Mariko, who Wolverine will fall for later in the movie. And I do want to point out, because we are tracking the progress here, this is the least Wolverine-y hair so far.
Yeah.
Not very stylized. So, but it's okay. It's okay. But we have been tracking that since X-Men 1 episode.
Tracking that as well as how many times Butt appears.
Yes, and we're up to twice now, but 3 tomorrow when we record it, Days of Future Past. And that one counts as 3. Yeah, so I really, Gilmore, you can't sit on that stuff.
Well, it's fine. He's already doing it.
Okay, well, all right. He gets a little confused when we record. But so Tasha, I think his first name is Tasha. He wants to exchange the life of Wolverine for his, because he's basically
Yoshida.
like,
oh, you wrote down. Okay, sorry.
Yeah, I think his first name is Tasha. But even if it's not, Yoshida. So I think this development is very cool.
Yes, me too.
He's about to die, and he's like, you have this regenerative factor. With my tech and stuff, you can give it to me and you can die.
Yeah.
Okay, that totally tracks for me. That makes sense. And then he's like, also, Mariko is going to get killed. And you're like, okay.
He tells Wolverine that?
He does.
I don't remember that.
Yes.
And then, like, right after that, Ishida dies, like, immediately. And you're kind of like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
So that's where we're at, right? Did I miss anything in there?
I'm forgetting this.
No, don't.
Whoops.
Don't let the listeners know you're forgetting.
Because you guys just watched this movie.
Oh,
Yes,
absolutely.
yeah. He shows up at the compound, and this is where my theory starts to develop for why he had to fake his own death. Okay.
Okay.
So I am Yoshida. I am this older man. I'm the king of an empire, essentially, of tech, and I want Wolverine to give me his eternal life ability.
Yeah.
And so my first plan is I'll just invite him here and ask him, like, try to manipulate him by calling out his flaws and his own fear of himself and fear of being eternally alive. And if that doesn't work, I'm also going to plant some seeds. And here's how I'm going to do it. I'm going to tell him that Mariko is going to be in danger. And then I'm going to will my everything to Mariko. And so that way, when I die, I fake my death and die. Then she is going to be in danger, and he is going to do anything to save her as he falls more and more in love with her. And I guess, okay, here's where it breaks down a little bit. But by doing that, then if I reacquire Mariko and bring her to some area, I can use that as a trap to trap the Wolverine and then take what I previously asked for. That is the only reason I can think for all of the motivation of the movie, like why he had to fake his death. If he doesn't fake his death, she's not actually in danger.
Yeah.
In that time frame, like Wolverine is only there for a day.
Yeah.
That sounds like a great movie like in a movie world.
Yeah.
That
we
makes
just
sense.
accept.
Right.
Yeah, but
in
like
real life, not so much. He could have
yeah.
he was already there on his compound. Why didn't he just attack him there? Like,
Yeah.
Well, I guess I want to figure it out. So I guess he knows if he wills it, then his son is going to want to kill his daughter, which seems like a pretty intense thing to assume about your really awful son, I guess.
Yeah, just a terrible son.
And it just slipped out like opening a window and then a dust cloud. I don't know what I was trying to say.
Cool.
Dang it. I thought I had
even
it.
as I was explaining it doesn't
You're
make
like,
total
I'm losing it.
But
oh yes, because I think when he says, but it's still just it's a lot of like just presuppositions. If I'm even using that word correctly. Uh-oh, Jack's down. Jack's down.
I'm back. I'm back.
Whew.
Had to adjust my charger.
Because I was gonna say that he says, "Hey, my daughter is gonna get killed," and my granddaughter. So that kind of gives Wolverine like, well, if you're not gonna give me your life, at least take care of her. So that ties him to her without the like. I hope they fall in love because that's kind of like. I mean, you can't fake that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Wait, no, let's go in on this. Keep going. What are you saying about love, Micah? No, I hear what you're saying. I do think the theory all breaks down. This is the last thing I'll say on it, but I think it breaks down because at that point he has the Wolverine on his, like, he is surrounded, right? So at that point, I feel like he could just have used his money and immense means to trap him in a similar way in that moment.
How they trap him further. So he refuses, but he spends the night there. And that Viper lady
that needed to happen first. Yeah.
Puts that thing in him. And so I think that's their plan B is we're going to put this thing in him that's going to like make him able to be hurt and not regenerate.
Right.
And it'll weaken him. So
then we can just take it from him, but then the son is already trying to kill the daughter. So then that spirals the whole events out of control, and then they're able to bring them back together at the end.
Yes.
Which kind of makes sense.
Sure.
I kind of feel like in an alternate world, I would have had him just die, and that's that. And then the rest of it is the power struggle of the son and the granddaughter, and then at the end of the movie, he has to kill the son.
Yeah.
I kind of
turns out
dig
to be
that
the
too.
big
Yeah.
bad.
Yeah, because I feel
When
like
he was
And
revealed.
I would cut Viper too.
oh gosh, Viper made no sense.
Yeah, she
but-
was. Yeah,
The Grandpa Yoshida, like the twist. I guess it was like a twist. The twist of him not being dead, was not interesting enough.
No.
Mm-mm.
And I think as much as I'm sure like the Silver Samurai thing is probably a really cool, iconic comic thing that I've never read, it felt very like, oh, it's that kind of movie now. Whereas the movie it never felt like it was that type of movie.
Definitely.
And so when the Silver Samurai shows up, it was kind of like, I mean, I did go, what's this now? But then when it started moving around and stuff, I was a little like, okay. Yeah. It was cooler when it was
I'm
well
watching a comic book
choreographed
movie.
action.
Yeah.
Yes.
It was cooler when it was on a bullet train. I'll tell you what.
Yeah, the bullet train scene actually works out, listener, by the way. I know I was trashing it earlier, but it's pretty sweet.
Your younger self was trashing it, which I'm sure my younger self was like, oh my gosh, CGI, ever heard of it? It's dumb and it can never be used to great effect.
Yeah.
And then I'm watching this and I'm like,
you're like, ooh, bullet train fight scene.
yeah. The moment it starts.
One of the things I said, because earlier in the movie, Evan, I don't think he was joking, but he was like, wow, that bear looks better than the bear in The Revenant. And then when we got to the bullet train sequence, I was like, this outside bullet train sequence looks better than all of the outside bullet train stuff in the movie Bullet Train that came out last year. Like, I think it looked really good. Anyway,
yeah.
we're not there yet.
Okay, so Grandpa Yoshida dies, and then the Viper lady kisses Wolverine. Well, she assaults him. Let's be honest, and puts that thing in him. Although we don't know that yet. And then the next day is the funeral. So we're all at this funeral. And
Also, I'm sorry to cut in, but I kind of felt like her giving him the electronic thing was kind of like a hat on a hat.
Yeah. Oh, totally.
Like, I think it would have made more sense. Like the electronic thing is what's giving him his.
It's what's taking away his regeneration.
Yeah. So that makes sense.
Bug.
That tracks. I dig that, but it's like she's also a mutant and she's a Viper.
Yes.
Like,
and she's got all this poisonous breathing power
she made no
stuff.
sense.
Like,
you cut
they
her out of the
didn't need-
movie, it doesn't affect the plot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I feel like you just have the son give him that.
Yeah, or you just have a random person who works there who slips into his room.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Anyone could have done that.
But James Mangold, you're welcome on the podcast anytime. The movie's still great. Okay.
Okay.
I am nervous about your next movie though, but we
What's
can't
his
get
next
into
movie?
that. It's Indiana Jones and the Dial
That's
of
right, that's
Destiny.
Ooh.
Yeah.
One of the worst titles to an Indiana Jones movie I think anyone could ever think of.
I don't think that was his choice.
No, it's not. I'm sure it's not. But the Dial of Destiny? You know how many images I think of when I hear Dial of Destiny? It's a total of zero.
A phone, like an old timey phone with a rotary,
A rotary phone?
phone.
But when I think Temple of Doom, what do I think of? I think of fire. I think of demons. I think of craziness. And that's, that's excluding thinking about the movie. Raiders of the Lost Ark, before you see that, you're like, what the heck is that? What the heck is that? All that. Last Crusade, okay. Dial of Destiny. All right.
They got hooked by the alliteration. That's what did it.
Which
Yeah,
isn't
I
even
think
an
so.
Indiana Jones thing. None of the
I
other
know.
movies.
That's
I
what happened,
know.
though.
Someone was like, we should make this a little more fun of a title. That's what we
Yeah.
need for an Indiana Jones movie.
And they could have never guessed this, but with I am again forgetting his name, but the male lead in Everything Everywhere All at Once.
Something Quan. Hi, something. I want to look it up.
Yeah, Short Round from Indiana Jones.
Yeah.
There's been like a joke poster that's been going around, which is him now, currently, and it's like the adventures of Short Round in the Indiana Jones font.
K Hoi Quan, and I know I'm not saying it correctly.
Ke Hoi Kwan. Yeah. And I know that the people who are working on Indiana Jones did not know that he would just have like an Oscar nominated performance. And by the time this episode comes out, we already know that he maybe won or maybe didn't. I don't know.
That'd be cool.
I've just been so consumed with taxes that are due this week.
That's it. Shout out to my dad, a CPA.
But having said all that, there's been like a joke poster, The Adventures of Short Round, and I think he's even shared it like, oh, this is cool. And it's like, yeah, in an alternate world, not another old man Indiana Jones, but an Adventures of Short Round movie. That would be
Exactly.
That would have been the move. But
yeah,
he hasn't acted, in 20 years or whatever, so it makes sense that no one would think to do that.
Is that his first thing in a really long time?
Oh yeah.
Everything Everywhere All at Once? Is
Yeah.
that what we're saying? Oh, I haven't like looked him up, so I didn't know that.
He hasn't acted since he was a kid, I don't think.
What? Are you
Yeah,
serious?
he in interviews he like famously said like I think it was when he watched Shang-Chi that he like for a while he just felt like there were no roles that weren't like really flat two-dimensional roles for people who looked like him.
Uh-huh.
So
Yeah.
when he started to see, maybe it was Crazy Rich Asians. I think it was that movie that he
that
said in
makes
an
sense.
interview, like inspired him like, oh, there's now like a place for me in Hollywood and in movies. So he started
Dang.
looking around and getting back in.
That is
Yeah.
so freaking cool. And so he just comes back and gets nominated and hopefully wins an Oscar.
Yeah,
Yeah, he's just in an
which we
incredible
already
movie.
know, but taxes have been getting in the way. So
Yeah, they've really been bogging us down. The H&R Blocks of the world.
But having said that, he has been working on movies because he does martial arts on movies.
Oh, okay.
So he's been working on movies,
just not
through
as
this,
an actor.
but not
Dang.
which is crazy because then when you watch Everything Everywhere All at Once, you're like, oh, he's doing
Wait, so he's doing it?
his choreography and.
I know like nothing about this. It's
Yeah,
crazy.
he's I guess I don't know how much he's choreographing, but he's doing the stuff.
Yeah.
I suppose there's always room that an actor isn't doing like the really dangerous stuff,
Mm-hmm.
but he's doing his own stunts, and then of course Michelle
did not
Yeoh
know
is
that.
doing her own stunts
Right.
because
Yeah,
she's
Michelle Yeoh's
Superstar.
she's unhinged. Yeah, she's
Yeah.
incredible.
so.
I don't want to just talk about that movie, but a quick dive. His scene where he is saying that he essentially like chooses love in the world, and that's
Oh
just
my
who
gosh.
he is when he's like smoking a cigarette outside. We rewatched that movie recently, and I missed that scene completely the first time. I was just, listener,
Yeah.
I keep addressing you, but you should really see that movie if you haven't.
Yeah.
Just go pop the popcorn and sit down and watch it. It's worth it.
Well,
Yeah.
that moment where she, it's in that same like timeline where she's telling him that, in an alternate timeline, all we do is do laundry and do
Yes.
taxes together. Speaking of what we've been so worried
topical.
about,
Yeah.
Exactly.
and then he's smoking the cigarette and he's like, in an alternate time, I would have loved to have grown old with you and done laundry and taxes. And you're
Ugh.
like,
Yes,
Oh.
it's so
Oh my
good.
gosh. Yeah,
he would rather have that than the success he's clearly
we just
got.
rewatched this movie we've just rewatched this movie in theaters, and it like that stuff hit harder for me this time, the marriage stuff.
Yeah.
Yes.
Totally.
Because the first time around it was the mother-daughter, like the real emotional core of the movie like really got me.
Yeah.
But this time around it was the marriage stuff really got me.
Uh-huh.
Oh, it was so good.
Yeah. Well, should we maybe we can cut it if we don't want to, but
Okay.
because this is coming out in April,
Okay.
but we're having a baby,
Yeah.
and
So the mother-daughter stuff did hit in a
Well, when-
deeper way.
when I was watching it, when I was watching it, I was like, oh my gosh, being a parent is going to be so hard.
And I think I've said this on the podcast before, but if you like to get me to cry in a movie, you just got to introduce parent stuff, and I'm gone. And I have a great relationship with my parents. It is nothing like I've a void in my life,
Yeah.
but oh my gosh, it really gets me. So I think now when we were seeing that movie, it was like, oh crap, this is going to be so hard.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's going to be a girl too, so the mother-daughter stuff must have hit you.
Yeah, I shouldn't watch Lady Bird again, probably.
Watch it now before she gets
Yeah.
ready for college.
Yeah.
Rewatch it now. There's so many movies we will not be able to watch
No.
anymore.
And that one like truly felt very personal to me the first time I watched it.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that movie.
Mhm. Anyway, Wolverine.
Wolverine, yes. So then we have Yoshida's funeral.
Yeah.
Yes.
And
And the Yakuza are there.
yes.
And they break out and they're there to assassinate people, namely Mariko.
Yeah.
So this is all a cool scene. Cool fight
That's
scene.
awesome.
Yeah.
And
It looks so cool.
Yeah.
this scene's crazy because Wolverine is getting shot and stuff, and he's like so confused because he's not healing very quickly,
Mm-hmm.
and he's
Oh,
like,
this
"What the
starts-
heck?"
Yeah.
This starts something I thought was really cool that I just felt like, man, they're really killing it. And I don't know if it's cinematography or who makes these decisions, but like his POV when he's getting injured is like he's all hazy and
Yeah.
like everything's out of focus and stuff, and it just like it looked really good. It just put
Yeah.
me in the moment and
It
made me
made you
understand
feel-
without telling me.
Or it made me fully understand, like, he is not used to feeling this way.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, and I think if they made this movie today, like if it was a Marvel movie, the moment he got shot the first time, another character, probably someone famous, would be like, "You're not regenerating. What is going on?" But
Yeah.
instead, they just kind of let you sit in this moment with him where he's all of a sudden getting hurt and
Mhm.
he's not okay.
Well, you know what's
Totally.
pretty cool that I think James Mangold is very good at with both of his Wolverine movies is Wolverine any superhero character can be kind of meta, especially because we've seen so many of these movies, and there could totally be that like he is just able to play it and create it like a Western hero. Obviously, we're going to talk about that a lot. Where it feels like he's a little more Clint Eastwood, where it's like, "Ugh, that happened to me again," but it's not like, "Hey, audience, did you notice that happened to me again? Oops, the bullets hurt now."
Mm-hmm.
And so I don't know. I don't know if that makes any sense what I'm saying, but it's like this scene feels more emotional than I think if a different
Yes.
director would do it, they would maybe have him be like, "Oh, well, that's all new." Huh. I don't know. It would just not like work as well. And when he does do those types of jokes in this movie, they feel like natural jokes, not commentary.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they're coming from Logan. This brings up to, for me, something I felt like seeing this movie throughout the whole movie. Like Hugh Jackman, he doesn't just show up in body, although again, listener, the guy's body's crazy. But he also, I felt like he really, maybe it's the direction, maybe it's just him. I mean, he is a great actor.
Yeah.
Watch Prisoners if you haven't watched that.
Mm-hmm.
But I felt like he really showed up. Like his
Yeah.
emotional reaction, everything in the movie is like really intense. And he doesn't have a ton of lines throughout the whole movie, which I guess is classic Wolverine. But yeah, he did a great job just expressing everything.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's truly no wonder that they decided the first spin-off movie should not be Magneto or Charles or Scott or
Yeah.
Jean Grey, but Wolverine.
It'd never be about Scott.
Yeah, they don't like him for some reason. They kill him off screen in The Last Stand.
I have not seen it. That's hilarious.
He's a main character and he gets killed off screen. You gotta watch him along with the episode releases, Jack, because I want to hear what you think of them. Watching them
I'm
years
going
later.
to now. Now I'm too curious now to see where all of this goes. But yeah, I just think Hugh Jackman, he just showed up day one of X-Men and just he just did it.
Yeah, he really like embodies Wolverine. And honestly, as much as Logan was like the perfect send off, it does not surprise me in the least that he is signed on to do Deadpool 3, because I know he's like,
Yeah.
I'm never going to do this again. Like, this is it. But then they bring him a script and he's like, okay, I get to play Wolverine again, you're saying? And like, there'll probably be at least a cameo or scene in one of the MCU movies when
Yeah.
they eventually bring the X-Men in that he will also be in. He will probably do it until he actually dies.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
it is just like, he clearly embodies and loves the role.
Yes.
Much in the same way I think like Robert Downey Jr., I'm kind of surprised that he was like, yeah, let's kill off the character, because he seems to like genuinely love being Iron Man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Although he was in more movies, so maybe that's part of it. Or maybe he wasn't actually. Wolverine's in so many movies.
Yeah.
Actually, yeah, he's been Wolverine longer.
Yeah.
It had been like,
Yeah.
he'd been Wolverine because Logan came out in 2000. Well, now this, yeah, he's gonna have been Wolverine for well over 20 years by the time Deadpool
Dang.
3 comes out.
That's crazy.
Jack is just shaking his head. And
Hugh Jackman's he's nice with it. That's just at the end of the day, he's just so nice.
Yeah.
He's so good as Wolverine and everything else he does.
yeah, but you
Okay, so
looked
where
like
are
you were
we?
about to say something.
Oh, I was asking when Prisoners came out, and that came out in 2013.
So same year as this.
Yeah.
Wow.
Crazy, 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 man.
I don't think
Good
he's
year.
ever gonna do a performance as good as that movie.
As Prisoners?
Yeah.
That movie is.
Gosh, it's just one of the best ever.
Probably that's my
It's
favorite
so
Jake and my favorite Hugh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not my favorite
Yeah.
Dano, but that's okay.
It's
Dano's
still
got to
great,
have
too.
There Will Be Blood.
Yeah.
But
Mm.
yeah, so I wrote this and I'm not remembering what this is, but it says stabs guy through door in chase! ! Mimi likey. That's what I wrote.
Wait, that's so funny because when that scene happened, I was like, okay, so they just ran into this. Was it like what was it
Oh,
exactly?
it was like
a
a- it looked-
cafe, a computer cafe, or something?
Yeah,
a
something like
casino?
that.
Oh,
Arcade.
Like
now I
slot
remember.
machines or
Yes,
something.
Mimi do likey.
So here's the thing: two random people, one of whom is bloodied, run into this casino. Now,
It's
and
like an
he can't see
arcade.
through the door. Yeah, it's
Is
an
that what you
arcade.
said?
Jack and I already went through it.
Oh, sorry.
We ran it in. But my point is, like, that could have been anyone approaching the door who's just concerned. Like a random white dude in Japan who's bloodied runs in with this random woman into the back room. Like maybe that's security. Maybe it's just an onlooker who's like, maybe someone needs help. And he just absolutely murders them. Just goes for
he
it.
got lucky.
May I posit to you that you are forgetting about his sense of smell, my friend?
I forget that he has more powers than just the claws.
Yes. I mean, he was able to smell the radiation at the beginning of the movie. So if you can smell radiation, I think you can tell this was that guy that was chasing me. I'm going to put my fist against the wall and shoot my claws through the door into the guy's head. Mimi likey. And then I wrote Arrow Guy chasing 2. If people could read these notes that I take, they would think that I'm like a 5-year-old because I just had to write them as quickly as possible to where I'm still watching the movie.
Because you brought up the Arrow Guy, I also feel like he is a character that you could probably take him out of the movie and it wouldn't affect anything. I know near the end, he like makes a decision that helps them in the end, I think, like in the critical moment.
Yeah.
But other than that, it was, I don't know. I just like forgot he was a character.
Yeah, and I got confused about who he was because they were mentioning who she was engaged to.
And it wasn't him.
Yeah, but when they mentioned it, I was like, oh, it's the Arrow Guy, okay. And maybe that's a me bad.
No,
but I don't feel like they made it clear.
This guy was like her childhood best friend, and they were in love when they were younger, but they were forbidden to marry, I think.
Okay.
I think.
Yes. He's a tangential love interest. He's also like he's a part of the I think they're called they're the ninjas who protect the Ishida family.
The Hand.
The Hand, yes.
Yeah.
Aren't they the Black Hand?
I think they might be the Black Hand, yeah.
Wait, isn't there the Hand? Are they connected to the Daredevil Hand?
I think so.
Is that? Oh, okay. And then of course, what is the Turtles one called? The Foot?
I think so.
The Foot Clan. Oh,
yeah,
man,
no,
it's so good the naming of things.
No, because Daredevil and the X-Men are both Marvel. So in the comic books, the Hand can be used for either. But of course, in the movies at this point, of course, crossing over is out of the question because Fox Studios still owns the X-Men, but soon they will not. And then the Hand can come into MCU with the good old-fashioned Wolverine.
Okay.
It's good.
Yeah, it's good. So then we get to, I'll say it, the coolest scene in the movie. It's a bullet train sequence.
Bullet train.
He catches up with Mary. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, do you think that Bradley Pitt was watching this movie and thought to himself, bullet train. Interesting. and then years later went on to make the film or be a part of the film
he's
Bullet
like,
Train.
let's wait 9 years to make this movie.
Well, I
I'm
wonder.
just saying.
I wonder when the book came out because it's written by a Japanese man.
Oh,
Bullet Train.
oh, it's
Maybe
by
based on a
he's
book.
watching this
Kotaro
Wolverine
Isaka, I
movie.
think. So maybe
If you had
yeah.
said, Jack, what movie do you think that came out in the past couple of years that was based on a book? The last movie I would have said
I
was
know.
Bullet Train.
Yeah. The only reason I know that is because where I work, we had the audiobook.
Yeah. Well, and we did, of course, to plug for the audience,
Well, yeah,
we
we
did
did
an
an episode.
MPU, the sequel episode on it. And all you have to do is go to patreon.com/MicahMcCaw and sign up for as little as $3, and you get an extra episode every single month.
Less than a cup of coffee, folks. Less
Than a COC.
Mhm.
So,
wait, less than a COC?
yeah, a cup of coffee.
Okay, yeah, sure. You're sticking to that.
Yeah.
Ever since Micah discovered that Paul F. Tompkins has a strange ability to abbreviate anything at a moment's notice, Micah has been working on that.
Oh,
So
yeah.
that's nice.
Well, and it is great because besides Jordan, it almost always lands when you do that.
Besides me.
Yeah, well, it's because you're around it. But
Yeah.
if you're like, that's a tip for you listeners. This is just a free tip. If you're somewhere and someone's like telling a story or something and they're like, oh, I had to run in and grab my broom, then you're like, GYB? And they're like, huh? And you go, you know, GYB, you had to grab your broom. And then they usually laugh because they're like, wow, that's
funny.
They think it's funny. It's just like a funny thing to do. And look at that, COC. Jack's sitting there going, what the heck is he talking about? And then a smile cracks upon his face.
Huge, yeah. Listener, you cannot hear it, but I'm just laughing heartily over here. Big chuckle from Jack.
BC, big chuckle.
There it is. Okay, that one got me.
Yeah, so that's just a freebie. Yeah, so they go to the Bullet Train, and he gets on, and he goes to Mariko, and he's like, you have got to, like, going to your home or whatever, it's a bad idea. I need to protect you. And she's going, no, I don't need your protection. And then the hand catches up to them.
Mhm.
Now, when I'm seeing this and they start fighting, because he goes to the bathroom and he's like removing bullets and he's bleeding everywhere.
Yeah.
And then,
And he is not healing.
yeah, and he gets out and turns to the left of him and he just sees like 4 or 5 guys just standing there staring at him. And he's just kind of like, okay, here we go. And then he starts fighting them and I'm like, oh, this is cool. And then it opens up and he kicks someone outside. And I'm thinking, don't go outside because it's not going to look good and it's not going to be that interesting.
Yeah.
It didn't look good when Tom Cruise did it in Mission Impossible 1. It's not going to look good now. And then they go outside and these guys are fighting. And then it is thrilling because they played with the concept. I think that's what makes it work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because he's using his claws to fight them, and then they get to where they're prone, and he has to use his claws to stab it into the roof. And then the ninjas have to stab their swords
But they had
into
that
the roof.
great detail of when the guys had to put their dagger in it. They went back a couple feet.
Oh, yeah.
That was great.
Yeah.
And so they're doing all of that, and then they get to this scene that could potentially be laughable.
Mm-hmm.
But they start he's fighting next to this guy and they're standing there next to each other and they see, or I think they're face to face, and like the guy sees, a sign. And so he ducks. And then he sees another sign and he jumps and it like launches them forward, backward, whatever, however the physics work. And I was like, yes, that's cool. And then they're jumping around and flying around and stuff like that. And he's getting one here and getting one there. And then there's one last guy who's facing him as the train is going the opposite direction that the guy is facing. And then Wolverine does a jump, but there's nothing there. And then the guy jumps and he jumps and smashes into a sign because he was following Wolverine's lead.
Mm-hmm.
That's good.
Mm-hmm.
That is good.
Wolverine, for so much of his physical ability, he beat them with his brain. And I think that's really the big takeaway, probably from the whole movie. Something really to take home, listener, using the old noodle.
And I mean, but I will give credit to the guy who got smashed against the sign. Probably the best Simon Says player to ever exist.
He just absolutely was locked in. They had kind of a relationship, the two of them.
Yeah.
Like they both knew, I have to trust you in this moment. And he deceived him. I will say too, I wrote down a little note. The scene where he flies, ... lol.
Yeah.
I loved it. Listener, after all of this jumping stuff happens, he sees way down at the other end of the train like a guy trying to get through a hatch down to Marco.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And he just takes his claws out and jumps in the air and essentially flies at the guy because of the way the train's moving. And if there's one addition that Wolverine could have that would make me even more excited for his character, it's him flying. And so I was just, I was so
it's
sold
so
on that.
Yeah.
Well I mean,
so
this is something that I really like about this movie that James Mangold is taking very seriously, like making a human drama, but also like an action movie, all that stuff. But at the end of the day, he is like, it is a comic book movie though. And I would like to see a panel of him flying like 400 feet and stabbing a guy. And I know that the audience is going to like to see that as well. So he's not like sacrificing one for the other. And that's why this movie works so well, I think.
Yeah. No, I agree.
So then him and Mariko, they go to a like hotel, which is just
a love hotel.
A love hotel.
Yes.
And out of the three choices of dungeon, nurse office, or mission to Mars room, they choose the room I would have chosen as well. Mission to Mars. Jack, which room would you have chosen?
Easily Mission to Mars. Big sci-fi guy over here. Absolutely loved it. Loved the little joke in the midst of all this chaos. I also wanted to hop in. Wait, Jordan, did you say which one you would pick?
Oh, same. Absolutely.
Mission to Mars.
Okay.
So when they said that line, my brain immediately was like, first of all, I was already loving the movie, and I was like, I wish that there was another universe where they just made a ton of Wolverine movies during this era, just a bunch of them, like one a year, and each of them had different themes. Like Wolverine 2000, where Cyborg Logan leads a ragtag group of space criminals to save the universe.
Oh, you have the pitches. Okay. Yes.
Yeah. Well, that's the only one I have a real pitch on. The rest are just titles. Apocalypse Wolverine. That kind of explains itself. W is for Wolverine, which is a romance drama.
That's awesome.
Wolf, which is a cutaway workplace sitcom. A Christmas Wolverine. Those are the ones I came up with. I would have loved any and all of those.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Wow. If only.
If only we could go back.
That's awesome.
Wow. Yeah.
But anyway,
that's very
they
funny.
Mission to Mars.
And then Logan loses consciousness, sees Jean Grey again, wakes up at a doctor, but it's actually a veterinarian who's working on him. And again, nice touch. The veterinarian has like claw marks all over him because he was like fighting him in his sleep.
Oh yeah.
And then he returns. Oh, it's actually not Hiroshima. It's Nagasaki, I believe.
Oh, okay.
Which, sometimes we forget that America dropped 2 atomic bombs, not just one.
Yeah.
So he returns to Nagasaki and sees the well, which is now, it looks like well, actually, I think it's like a memorial plaque.
Was it?
Was it just a sewer capsule?
I think it was just sealed up, and this place just became a nice like walkway along the bay.
Yeah.
But he remembered where it happened.
Which I guess if you were taking the metaphor, it's like you can get out of your prison and you can make it a wonderful place.
Yes. Oh, yes. And for the listener, I think at this point we've discovered as the viewer that that she is in danger, that she's going to inherit everything.
Yeah.
She tells him over dinner,
yeah.
I'm going to inherit everything. That's why they're trying to kill me. And so that's why they're hiding out at her hometown or near her or at this country estate or whatever.
But what's confusing is they go out of their way to say that Yoshida bankrupted the company so that he could heal himself.
Is that what they said for real?
They said that.
He was collecting the...
Like,
They also
wait.
said he was collecting the adamantium, I think, in
Yeah.
order,
But
like, as a part of this.
but does that mean he bankrupted the company out of his like obsession to figure it out? Is that what they were saying?
That's what they're saying, and
Okay.
it's clear that the son knows that as well.
Okay.
So the fact that he's trying to kill his daughter for the inheritance, I think, kind of negates how much that makes sense. Because why would you kill your daughter to get a company that is not worth any value?
Well, I think they said he almost did. Like, he
Yeah.
accumulated enough debt to where it was really concerning. But by the end of the movie, like, she is still the head of a tech giant, and it like makes news.
It's still an
So,
empire.
Okay.
yeah,
So
and the power.
I guess this isn't like real debt. This is like raise the debt ceiling kind of debt.
Yeah, I think this is a
Like it doesn't
company that's
exist.
so rich. Like it's
They're too
it's
big
like,
to fail, kind
it's
of
like
thing.
Succession, when in season 1 Logan Roy has spent way too much money and they're trying to figure out a way to get money back, and when he gets well and can be the head of it again, he's like, okay, let's spend more money, and they try
Yeah.
and tell him he can't do that, and he's like, what are you talking about? I can do anything I want. I think it's like that.
Yeah.
It's just like Succession.
It's like home loans exist for us, but if you're really rich, you're allowed to be in debt more than the money you have, which is kind of how the world works, and that's part of
Yes.
why billionaires suck.
So that's
Yeah.
what this movie is
Because they
really
all own
about.
companies that aren't worth anything, which doesn't make any sense to me. But that's economics for you. So I guess we've explained away that little thing that that was bugging me. So that's good.
Easy.
Then we go back to the flashback where he's given the sword,
Oh yes. Okay.
but he refuses it, and he
Yeah.
says, "You give it to me later in the future."
hmm
And then I said, "Sees airplane in present." I don't know what that means.
That
and then-
was when
that
he was
sparks
looking at
his
the
memory.
Yes.
Oh, yes. That was
He's
such a
looking
beautiful
at the manhole
touch.
cover. Yeah.
Because
Mhm.
we're seeing
Yeah.
that, like, it's just a commercial airplane flying over Nagasaki. But, of course, he's seen the B-29 that dropped the atomic bomb.
Yeah.
That's good. Little parallelism, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or maybe, yeah, sure. And then my next note, and I know what this is in reference to, but my next note is Ty's robe. Gene, everyone you love dies.
Well, this is when they get it on, because they get caught in the rain because it's so romantic, and then they go back home.
I like getting caught in the rain. I also like pina coladas.
I think they do too. So he has a.
Jack's still laughing.
Mike, at what time would you say that you prefer to make love? Would that be pre or post midnight?
Actually, directly on. And guess what? I'll tell you one thing I don't like and I'm not into. Yoga.
Health food. One for me.
No.
It's the one that I don't enjoy.
Did you put out an ad recently? Because that's sounding mighty familiar to an ad I put out.
So cute.
Okay, well, Mike and I will pursue our the theme, our
Offline,
love story.
offline.
Yeah, on a different. On a
W
different
is
pod.
for Wolverine.
Yes.
Okay,
so-
you were saying, Jordan.
So he's wearing. I mean, I don't know if it's a kimono, but he's wearing
it is.
something and he can't tie it, so she ties it for him, and then they bang.
Yeah.
yeah.
But it didn't feel it felt earned actually to me. It didn't feel like out of left field annoying.
Yeah, I don't know.
Maybe
That's
that's
fine.
because I know that that's one of his loves from reading comics.
Yeah.
But
As
You
a
read-
non-comic reader, I was a little like, they've known each other for a little. I don't know. Because the scene was so like, it was like they didn't show anything. They just
Yeah.
insinuate all of it, and it felt like they were trying to make it really, really kind of like this romantic connection they had. I mean, I was take it or leave it on it.
Yeah,
I
I
wasn't
Yeah.
like fully sold.
Me too. I think it's whatever. It's gonna happen. It's Wolverine. Have you read comics with her in it?
uh-huh.
Is she cool?
Well, actually all the ones I've read it's like been he like kind of passes her by and it's like, oh, remember what we had, but you don't know, and it was going to be revealed later, but I got tired of the run and I didn't finish it.
Oh, bummer for you.
Yeah, but I think before the next Wolverine, I think I'll read some of the the miniseries that this one was based on, and because I think Logan is based on a specific run in that series too. So I think I'll read that as well.
Cool.
Yeah. So, yeah, but then he has this dream where Jean's like, everyone you love dies, and he's kind of like, I got to take care of this though. I got to see this through. I don't want to die yet. Mariko gets kidnapped. He runs after them. He gets one guy. And then I know I'm kind of blazing through here, but
Yukio shows up.
Yes.
Well, the guy tells him I don't know if the guy gives him information. I feel like he does. And then Yukio shows up and takes him to the place where Mariko's fiance is.
Yes, which is like the old area that he's already been to where the dad died, isn't it?
I don't know.
Oh, I think it is.
Yeah.
Okay.
The temple, I think, is
okay.
Where it's at. And then this is where she says, I saw you die, and I'm always right. So, like, don't do this. Well,
so I saw you holding your heart in your hand.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I forgot that actually he goes and sees the Minister of Justice, and this is when we found out that this was who Mariko was engaged to.
That happens after she says that to him, but yeah.
Yes, but he hasn't actually gone back to the temple yet, is what I mean.
Oh, okay,
No,
yeah.
And
they first went to see the Minister of Justice. She says that thing. He goes
Yeah.
up and finds the Minister of Justice, who's supposed to be engaged to Mariko.
And that's where it got confusing motive-wise for me.
Yeah.
So what's the deal here? Okay, so they find him and he's having a fun morning, is what it looks like.
Yes.
And
he's philandering. That's the word I was looking
philandering.
for.
That is the word.
Yes.
They get the girls to leave.
Oh no, I was just trying to pet Gilmore.
Oh, sorry. Okay, they get them to leave, and then they start grilling the Minister of Justice.
Yes.
And so, what do they learn from this?
Oh, I just like how he's like, "Tell me in 10 words or less."
Oh yeah.
Like explain the situation or something, and he says something like, "Don't kill me! Don't kill me!" And then he's like, "What's her name?" Yukio. How many words was that? And she goes 9, and he's like, "You better make this last one count."
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, that's good. But I don't remember what information he's getting.
So he first, from earlier on, from when they kidnapped her, Mariko, and he snags one of them, he asks that guy for information, and then he kills him. And he figures out from that guy that those guys were hired by the Minister of Justice. So then they go to the Minister of Justice, and he tells him, it's not just me, it's her dad who is really orchestrating all of this, and her dad's going to give me part of of this empire if I also help out using my connections with the underworld.
That's right.
Yeah.
And then he goes in. He has the face-off with
Wolverine. Throws that guy out the window, and that was a funny moment.
Yeah,
because Yukio says, "Oh, good thing there was did you know there was a pool?"
She's like,
down
"How'd
there?
you know there was a pool?" And he's like, "I didn't."
Love that.
Classic Wolf.
Workplace comedy.
Yeah, that's the workplace comedy part. And then there's this great part where he's I wrote ninja attacks simultaneous action, because I think he's talking to the dad and we're seeing all the ninjas and like shadows as they're like taking out everybody in the temple. And it's so cool and choreographed so well. It's mostly shadows that are happening. And it's just like, the camera panning as a person's walking through doing something. And there's certain shots where you can see ninjas like behind like the main actors talking and they're doing something. And I mean, that's the kind of stuff that elevates this movie above what they would normally do for a scene like this. Just all cutaways and maybe like it's just better.
It is.
Another thing that's cool is this movie is a samurai movie, and then the next movie, I mean, everybody knows it, but the next movie is a Western. So the Wolverine movies follow the action of cinema.
Yeah.
Because the samurai movement is what inspires the Western movement.
Yeah.
So
that's cool.
I think that's pretty cool.
That is cool. I didn't think about that.
Yeah. But of course, like the samurai and they're so closely tied together that it's like this movie's kind of a Western, but samurai movies predate the Western. So it's just cool how it kind of has that correlation. Then I wrote that Viper kills Sun, but she doesn't. She spits Viper on him, and he's like, and that's killed everybody else, but it doesn't kill him.
She does this a couple times where she'll like infect a person, and it's like, oh, okay, that person's dead, and then they show up again.
That was so confusing to me.
Yeah.
Yeah, she does that earlier too. Yeah, she like spits on a pen and then stabs him with it. Seems like an unnecessary step because she could also just spit it on him. And he freaks out. This is before Wolverine has shown up, right? Like all this happens. And it turns out that she's kind of leading this clan of ninjas, and he looks like he dies, but then he does show back up to try to kill our titular hero.
Yeah. And there's not like an explanation or anything.
For her?
No, for him like surviving that.
Well, oh yeah, for surviving.
His face was like burning up.
Yeah, and he's like choking and like falls in the water.
She's not that powerful, I guess.
I guess not.
She sucked. Yeah. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
she
no,
did,
I don't like I don't like the character choice. I just don't get
so bad. And then in the next part of the movie, when we're like on our showdown, she puts on like so many different bad outfits.
Yeah,
she
but
continues to get more Viper-like. That's like the thing that they decided to do.
And I'm not talking about shedding her skin. I'm not talking about that.
It was dumb, but I was also like, yeah, at least you're just doing it. But it's dumb. It was dumb. Yeah, I agree. Then we have the second coolest scene in this movie, where he is like, "Oh my gosh, I can get this thing in my heart."
He uses the contraption that Grandpa Yoshida was on to find out that there is like a parasite on his heart. So he's going to remove it manually. Yikes. Yeah.
So he's like cutting himself open while Yukio is fighting the sun. And it's a pretty awesome, like nice long shots where they are fighting and jumping through and over stuff. Looks fantastic. And the system he's using to look through, like x-ray his body, is getting like hit around so he can't always see it. And then of course he pulls out the thing that's ruining his regenerative power, and he's holding his heart and he dies. Wolverine finally finds rest. It says directed by James Mangold, screenplay and all that stuff. And then Then the reel rewinds and they put in another reel. And guess what? Beep, 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 beep. And then he's like, whoo. And then I think he shoots him or stabs him or something like that. And he's like, doesn't matter anymore. I got my stuff back. And then he just starts shredding these losers like there's no tomorrow.
Yeah, I can't remember where this line is, but I wrote it down and wanted to say it. I think it's in this scene. So he regenerates. He starts fighting the dad, Marco. It's just him and that guy fighting. And I think it's there where the dad says, "What kind of monster are you?" I think it's there. And then he responds with the title of the movie.
Yeah,
he says
awesome.
Wolverine. And I was like, let's go.
And speaking of lines too, once again, Wolverine gets the F word. I think in all of the movies so far, he's the only one who gets an F word, and he gets it in this one too. Go F yourself, pretty boy.
Yes, I had that written down too. Oh, it's such a bad line, but so good.
It works. It works. Then we're at the final showdown. And before he gets there, he gets shot by all these people who have arrows with ropes on them. It looks awesome. Very comic booky.
Yeah.
Love all of that. It was very funny, Evan pointed out, which is just funny. Like, then they capture Wolverine. They've got him. And then
they bring him to the place he's trying to go.
Yeah, and then Yukio just like drives up to a back fence, opens it, and gets there. And he's like, "How did he even go that way?"
Yeah. One thing this is where the movie did start to break down some things, like in terms of their consistency. So like Wolverine is like, okay, I know where she is. I'm gonna go there. So he goes there. But the way he appears there is he's got like his classic like fur coat on that I feel like he wears in other movies. Where did he get the coat? B, he's driving a motorcycle, and you're like, oh, he's in Japan. Maybe it's like a Japanese. No, it looks like an American motorcycle that he drives in all the other movies. Now, where he got that motorcycle, I have no idea. And so those things I started to go, they started to slip a little bit here. Here they were like, it has to be, we have to throw in these things for the fans.
Yeah.
But one thing I did really like about that scene when all those ninjas are like shooting him with these arrows is our main guy, I can't remember his name right now, the guy from Altered Carbon, that actor, he shoots him with a poison dipped arrow, which in that moment I was like, oh, they really thought about the story, like the callback to the poison dipped arrow in the very beginning using Kaveri. Like I was like, oh, they've really layered in a lot of these things. Like there's not a single, they didn't just focus on one thing. They were like, we got to keep doing all these callbacks. Pretty cool.
Yeah, I liked that too.
Yeah.
I dug it.
He's just an animal.
He's just an animal.
Yeah.
They got to take him down. But yeah, all of that is very cool. And then we get to, like I've already kind of said, it's just kind of nonsense where there's this big adamantium silver samurai and they like
it took me because I think they said it, but it just didn't seem clear to me. But not until the helmet was removed from it, I was like, so wait, is Grandpa Yoshida in there or not? Or is it his consciousness?
Yeah.
I was confused about that, how that was working.
Yeah, and it just, I don't know. It's also like you've had all this pretty, I know there's been a lot of CGI, but like not used in this way. And there's a lot of really nice choreographed stuff that is practical and grounds it. And this is kind of like, okay, we got to compete with the MCU. So let's do this scene.
Yeah.
Viper sheds her skin at one point, which is, I was kind of like, I get it. I don't think this needs to be in this movie, but I get it.
Yeah.
And I also think it would have worked a lot better if Wolverine just looked and he was like, what is this? And we hadn't seen her actually shed it.
Oh, okay.
You know?
Yeah.
Yeah, cut Viper from the movie, please.
Viper says, and Viper just doesn't work on so many levels, and she says a line that I just absolutely, I was just sitting alone watching this movie, drinking coffee this morning, and I like laughed really, really hard. She's essentially telling Wolverine who she is in the entire audience, because at this point, no one really gets who she is or why she's in this movie. And she's like, because of my mutation, I'm immune to every toxin in the world, every toxin known to man. I'm also immune to the toxin that is man. And that line is so incredibly bad.
Oh my gosh, it's awful.
It makes no sense. Like, what as a viewer was I supposed to be like, oh, she's immune to all these toxins and bad, but she's gonna be duped by Wolverine because he's so good looking. So she needs to clarify that she's immune to his charm.
But I will say, in defense of the movie, and this is very stupid what I'm about to say, but Wolverine is no man. He is a Wolverine, and that is why he can defeat her.
Yes.
Even though he doesn't, but yeah.
Yeah, who defeats her?
Yukio, I think.
Oh, okay.
Yukio.
Well, I guess that doesn't work.
Not a man, so.
Oh, yeah, okay.
True.
It works again.
Okay,
I am no man.
Wow.
Return to the King.
Okay.
But yeah, kind of nonsense fight that kind of was a little confounding.
And pretty long.
Yeah.
But then, so Wolverine's claws get smashed off, and that looked painful. Mm-hmm. And then they're sucking his life force out of. This is one of those things.
This didn't make sense.
Yeah, this is one of those things. There's like there is a fine line of like science fiction,
like pseudoscience.
Don't explain it, and people will just get it without knowing the complexities. Or the other side of the line where it's like, we have to drill into his bones of his claws to get his life force. And it makes no sense.
Well, what doesn't make sense is, okay, they're sucking out the adamantium. I get that. But how would that suck out his life force? Yeah, that doesn't make, I don't get that.
Or is the adamantium not over his bones?
It is.
Because I thought like his claws were cut off and they were drilling into his bones.
Yeah, I think so.
You just said adamantium.
Oh yeah, I guess you're right.
I think what would have made it make more sense is throughout the movie, the thing that is hampering his ability to regenerate is this bug that's on his heart. So if they had somehow been like, oh, I'm drilling into your heart, or for some reason we've identified that as the source of your ability to regenerate and live eternally, that may have made more sense. But yeah, it made zero sense. They were basically just like, we have a chemist and we can drill into your bones, therefore we can take your life. It doesn't work.
And then he recovers in like a second, which makes me feel like, couldn't he just be regenerating while he's losing it? It got me confused. But having said all of that, I mean, maybe there's a logical explanation. I don't know. But he defeats him. I also kind of felt like these two guys did have an interesting relationship. And I think the other thing that I didn't like about the dad showing up at the end is it just feels like we didn't spend enough time with him to see that he would go to these lengths.
Yes.
For eternal life. And I just feel like he owes Logan so much that it just seems odd. Like it just not odd. It was unsatisfying to me personally that like the end of this movie is he's like, "Mwah, ha 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 ha. You, the one who saved me from the atomic bomb, will lose your life force." It felt like, oh well, why would he do that? I don't know, that you don't have a life at all without this guy. But he's a supervillain, whatever. It just didn't land for me. And maybe it landed for somebody else, but not me.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with that. This is the last line that I wrote down that I do want to repeat, which I really enjoy. Well, he says, Wolverine, right before he essentially kills Senior Yoshida, he says, "You asked me to come say goodbye. Sayonara."
Oh, yeah. Oh, my gosh. Yeah.
The zingers are just out in full force, aren't they?
This is a comic book movie.
Yes.
Well, one of my favorite lines, not like verbatim line, is after this, everything's done, everything's fine. He has the vision of Jean, and he's like, "I will always love you, Jean," which is very nice, and I liked all that. But then he's sitting there in front of a private plane, jet, and Mariko's like, you could just stay here. And he goes, "No, I have to go. I gotta go." And he gets in the jet, and Yukio's there. And she's like, "Okay, where are we going?" And he goes, "I don't know. Where do you want to go?" And I was kind of like, what? Why does he have to leave Mariko? He has no idea what he wants to do.
No.
Yeah, I genuinely, after that line, when they got on the plane, I thought he was going to be like, "I need to go to this city." And it was going to be kind of like a wink or a nod to the camera of like, that's where the next X-Men movie takes place. And so all of it makes sense. But yeah, he's just like, let's just go up. I
don't know. We'll start with up. We'll see where that leads us. It's like you could just stay with the person you love.
And maybe do a little bit of planning. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
And also, why can't she come with you if you're going nowhere?
Yeah.
That was just so funny. Like,
yeah.
And then there's a post-credit scene.
Oh, I didn't watch it.
Oh, yeah. Oh, you fool. Shouldn't you know? Post-credit scenes galore.
I forgot. Describe them to me and the listener, please.
So Wolverine is at an airport, and he's about to go through a metal detector, and then time stops. All the people who are walking stop, and you're like, oh, that must be Charles Xavier. And out walks, Wheels, Charles Xavier, but he's played by Patrick Stewart.
Oh, not the James.
Yeah, and he's like, "Whoa, hey, Wolverine, I think we're going to need your help." And then all the metal in the building starts shaking. And then he's like, "We really need your help." And Magneto walks out, and he's like, "We both need your help." And you're like, whoa. And that to me, I was kind of like, okay, maybe Days of Future Past is going to be freaking sweet, because I like that they got the two older actors back and they got to team up. And so it's a nice little T-ball there.
Yeah.
So then the movie ends.
Yeah. Overall, loved it.
Overall, this is easy number 2 X-Men movie for me.
Okay.
Easy.
Wow.
Yeah.
I still think X2 just captures the X-Men.
Yeah.
Oh, that's what I was gonna say. I really need to rewatch. I thought you were gonna say Logan was your favorite, and then this was your second favorite.
I meant up to this point of watching
Oh, up
them.
to this point.
Yeah. I'm not
Yes, because I
including
have
those
very
because I haven't
fond memories
rewatched
of
them.
Logan, or not of Logan, of X2.
X2
I mean,
holds up.
All this stuff with Angel, I just remember being like,
No, Angel's in X-Men 3.
oh, really?
Yeah.
Wait, I need to rewatch X2 then. I like the themes in X3, or at least I did when I was a kid.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But I guess I was
X2
angsty.
has Nightcrawler in it, and then it has all the stuff where Logan originally goes and he starts figuring out what happened to him.
Oh, okay. Okay, X3 is the one where they come up with a thing that can like reverse mutants or fix them.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
it's been a while.
Yeah.
It's been a while.
Been a while.
Been a while.
I thought this movie rocked. I really liked it. Especially amongst superhero movies, it's particularly exciting.
Mm-hmm.
And that's my final word on the Wolverine.
Oh, okay.
I don't have much else to say other than I was pleasantly surprised.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would end, I guess, my comments on it with, like, the themes in the movie are actually really good. The end fight scene is bad, but even when he's saying goodbye to Jean, like,
Sayonara, you mean?
No, when he's saying not to
I know.
Nishida. Yes, when he says sayonara to her, the second sayonara in this movie from Hugh Jackman, incredible. No, but it really, like, in the moment where that scene happened, I was like, oh, the movie the whole time has been about like acceptance.
Yeah,
and that's like him coming to terms with it, and that's why like all of her scenes were necessary and really good. And then right at the end, he's like, no, you were killing people, and I had to stop you. That's just what happened.
Yeah,
and so it's actually a pretty good movie if you like superheroes or movies with guilt and how you deal with your guilt.
Yeah. It was weird though at that scene when he said, he was like, "All right, Jean, ciao." I thought that was interesting.
When he said adios, when he looked at Jean and said arrivederci, and I was like, wait, what's going on here?
But yeah, watch the movie. Let me look at the old calendar, and in the meantime, Jack, what do you got to plug?
Oh man, I never thought in my entire life I'd be asked to plug something. Listener, I pretty much have nothing to plug. I don't have the social medias. I don't create many things. But I will plug, if it is okay, a friend. Is that legal on the podcast?
Yeah.
I will plug my friend. His name is Matthew Shea, but his artist name is Dusty Sneakers. He does have a single on the Spotify called Little Homie, and it is an enjoyable song, and I would recommend it to you.
Little Sneakers. Wait, little or little?
Dusty Sneakers. The song is Dusty Sneakers. The song is Little Homie.
Yeah, yes. Yeah. Dusty Sneakers.
Dusty Homie and Little Sneakers.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah, great. And then for you listeners, because it can be confusing with this timeline, next week is X-Men Days of Future Past. But on Patreon this month, you can listen to our episode on A Knives Out Mystery, Glass Onion. Come on. Come on. You have to sign up. You have to sign up. Shing shing. That's me pulling out my claws and telling you sign up to Patreon. All right. Well, I guess the last thing I would like to say is SYL. See you later.
Oh, yeah.
Got
Bye.
it.